Hi everybody, this is Christa with the Big Family Homestead, and today I'm going to show you another bread recipe that is super awesome that you can put in your cookbook, in your file of recipes for your journey of baking bread. So this particular recipe is pretty versatile, okay? So this can be hamburger buns, it can be hoagie rolls, it can be hot dog buns, it can be brat buns. This one can be used for many different things. It is super delicious, super easy, and I cannot wait to show you how to make this bread. So let's get started. Here are the ingredients. Okay, for our ingredients, we're using 1 cup of milk, half a cup of water, 1/4 stick of butter. Then we're going to use between 3.5 and 4.5 cups of flour, bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour. I'm choosing bread flour. But I'll tell you why there's a difference in the amounts in a minute. Then we're going to use 2.5 teaspoons of yeast, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 1 little tiny egg. So our first step in making our bread is actually going to heat the milk and the water and the butter. We're going to melt the butter. So I'm going to cut this into smaller bits here so that it melts faster and it doesn't, our butter doesn't boil. But we want it to be hot enough to where it's kind of steamy. And this butter is just soft enough where it's not going to cut right. I just took this out of the refrigerator too. Anyway, so we're just going to cut this into pieces and pour our milk and water in here. We've got 1 cup of milk. Actually have a hair bit more than 1 cup just because there was only a tiny bit left in the jar and I didn't want to dump it, so I decided just to use it. So there's a hair bit more, so we'll have to add just a hair bit more flour. No problem. So we're going to put this on the burner, get that going. And then we'll go ahead and get our flour mixed up here. And all right, put that on a medium heat. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put in our bowl only 1 cup and 3/4 of flour. I'm going to fluff this up just a hair. You want to fluff the flour a bit so that it is not so heavy. So you don't want a super heavy dough or heavy flour. That's why a lot of places they'll weigh their flour so that they have an exact amount. I know I weigh it when I make pizza dough, which is a really, really great recipe. Now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar to our flour here, and then we're going to add our yeast to the sugar and our salt. So we need 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. So 3 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon. So a hair less in there. That's okay. Doesn't have to be exact. So then our salt, we need 1.5 teaspoons of salt, which is half of a tablespoon, just like that. And we're going to mix this up, and then we will get our milk that has it's almost done. We'll be right back when that is heated up and the butter is melted. We'll mix this together. All right, our butter is melted and our milk is up to temperature. It is to the point where it's just starting to steam a little bit, and the butter is melted. I said that already. The milk is almost too hot to touch. So we're going to go ahead and pour this in here and mix this up as we go. Just like that. Get this well combined. And then we're going to go ahead and add our egg in there before we add any more flour. But we want to get this clump free. Get this well combined. All right. So I'm just going to crack an egg into this measuring cup here because it's dirty already. And I rinsed it out from the milk, but I want to make sure that the egg is a fresh egg, which I know it is because it just came from our chickens a couple of days ago, but that there's no eggshells in it. I don't like eggshells in my bread. So we're gonna go ahead and mix this in. Get that nice and well combined. Just like so. You can kind of still see some of the yolk in there. All right, now we're gonna add a half a cup of flour at a time until this is well combined, until this is comes together. So this is about a half a cup. I don't really measure exactly. You guys know how I am. I go by feel, what it looks like. But we're gonna add a half a cup at a time till this is, it comes together and stays together, and then we'll start kneading. But if you want to make this in a stand mixer, you're more than welcome to. The only issue that I have sometimes with a stand mixer is you're not sure how much flour you have, if you've added too much flour, I should say. So I like to do it this way because then I can kind of feel it, and I know when it's a bit stiffer, then I've added just enough flour. So we're gonna keep doing this and until it comes together. Another half a cup. So we're now at, we're at 2 3/4 cup. So I will keep doing this and I'll be right back. All right, so we're to the point almost where we're going to start kneading. I wanted to show you, this is still a pretty sticky dough, but we're gonna go ahead and start kneading this. I've added 3 cups of flour. Today is it's been pretty damp here lately. So sometimes you're gonna have to add a little bit more flour if it is more humid. So we're just gonna keep adding flour until our dough comes together properly. Let's just get all those good bits out of there. So a little bit more flour here. Sometimes you have to add more, and I did add more milk, so that will account for the added flour. Wasn't much more milk though. All right, so we're just gonna mix this up and get this nice and smooth. All right, so we're just about ready to cut this into pieces, and look at that. We've kneaded it for about 8 minutes. It's nice and smooth. It springs back just like so. All right, this is ready to be cut. We're gonna divide this into about 10 pieces. I like to make ours about 4.4 ounces in size. That way the hoagie rolls will fill up a 9x13 pan, or the hamburger buns will expand enough. They will end up being a little bit more square than round, but that's okay because does it matter? I mean, really? No, it's fine. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this into 12 pieces. I need my dough blade. And then let's get this out of the way. And I am actually going to clear this out real quick and spray some grease into a pan, and we'll be right back. All right, now I've got everything set up. I actually had to drop that last clip and start over. So this is what real life is like, folks. We make mistakes. So I've got 2 pans here, a 9x13 and 11x7, sprayed with some oil. And then I put some spray oil on the counter. I like to use spray oil on the counter so it's not adding more flour and making it harder to work with. So we've got our bread dough here, and we're gonna go ahead and divide this into 10 pieces. I like to divide them into 10, makes it easy so that I can make 1 batch of hamburger buns and 1 batch of hoagie rolls. So I make them about 4 ounces each. Sometimes I make them a little bit smaller so that there is enough. But we're gonna go ahead and divide this out. And we'll see how much we get out of here. 4.1, that works. 3.2. Okay, we're just gonna keep dividing these and make them all 4 ounces and see how many we get. All right, so I counted, we got 11 of them at 4 ounces each. A couple of them are 4.1. I can't be too particular. So we're just gonna basically roll these into a ball, just like so, where we're tucking and turning just like that. And then we'll just let this sit, and we're gonna cover these with some plastic wrap on the counter and let them sit for about 10 minutes or so. And then we'll be able to roll them out, and then they will rise in the pans, and then we will bake them. That's how fast this is. We're not letting this do 3 risings or 2 risings, whatever your bread is. When you make a regular loaf of bread, you let it rise in the pan, in the bowl, and then you divide it out and put it in the loaf pans. We're not doing that. We're taking it out and putting it straight into little dough balls like this, covering it for about 10 minutes just so that they can rest. Then we'll roll them up, put them in the pan, and then we'll let those rise in a nice warm place for about half hour. I like to go a little bit longer, so half hour, 45 minutes. If your spot is not as warm, maybe an hour. Don't let them rise too terribly long. I actually made this mistake yesterday. I was making this video yesterday as well. I let them rise too long. It was at the time where everybody needed to come in and eat dinner really quick and get ready to go to church, and they rose too long. So they were too poofy and they fell the minute I started to bake them. So we're gonna let these rise the proper amount of time, 30 to 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer depending on how tall they are, how much they've expanded. But we're gonna cover these, like I said, for 10 minutes with plastic, and then we'll be right back. All right, so we've waited our time. We're just gonna pull up a little bit here, pull these out here. They have increased in size. They're not humongous, but they just need to rest so that they can rise a little bit, so that they're a little bit easier to roll into the right shape. Now, I'm going to show you, before I actually do anything with this, I'm going to make this one a hamburger bun, and then I'll show you how I make the hoagie rolls. So a hamburger bun, you're just going to flatten this down a little bit. That's pretty much all you're going to do. Like when you're making a hamburger patty, you're just going to press it out just like so. Okay? So just like so, and then we're going to lay this down into our pan. Okay? Now, we're going to do a few of those so that I have enough space to roll out the hoagie rolls. So these are the easiest ones to make, as you can see. So we'll make 5 of these, and then we'll make the rest of them hoagie rolls. If you want to do hamburger rolls, do them a touch smaller. Did I say hamburger rolls? Did I say hamburger? I meant hot dog buns. We want to do hot dog buns, sorry. Then you're going to want to make them a little bit smaller. You don't want these massive, 9-inch long hoagies, because that's what'll happen is these hoagies will fill up this pan here. Actually, I think I might only just make 4 of these. So there we go. We're going to leave that just as it is. I'm going to go ahead and take some plastic wrap and no, I'm just going to leave it. Not a problem. So we're going to take our roll here, and then we want to kind of flatten it upside down into a rectangle, just like this. And then we're going to roll it. I know this seems really small. It's only about 4 inches long. But it will expand, and we are going to roll this like when you're a kid, you play with Play-Doh. Or if you have littles in your house, that's what they like to do. They like to roll it out and make a big snake. Well, that's what we're doing here. Okay. Tuck in those ends to make them nice and flat, and then put the seam side down. We're just going to do that with the rest of these. And then we're going to cover these with plastic, put them in a warm oven. or in a warm laundry room, whatever, wherever you have is a nice warm place. I mean, if you're in a nice warm place down south, then you don't have to worry about that. But us up here in central Wisconsin, it was 30 degrees this morning. So we have to kind of keep them in a warm spot. So I'm just going to roll these out. I'll show you one more here. We're just going to flatten this into a rectangle and then just kind of tuck and roll, folks, tuck and roll. And then roll this like you would make a snake with Play-Doh. And then just tuck in those ends just like so. Seam side down in our pan. So I'll finish these up and show you how they look before we put them in the oven. Well, to rise, not to bake. All right, so I didn't get all 7 of the hoagie rolls in the pan. So there's, oops, they're sliding. That's okay. So there's 6 in the pan here. Slide those back to where they're straight or even. And I did make that final one into a hamburger bun. It did flatten a little bit more than I usually do, but that's really okay. So we're going to cover these with plastic. We're going to set them in a warm place for about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how warm your place is. So we want them to have more than doubled in size, but don't fill up the pans. We want them to be at least double the size. So these hoagie rolls will fill up this way, but not nearly to the top. So we'll come back half hour, 45 minutes, and I'll show you what they look like. All right, so we've waited our time. Now, these are almost too big. I let these go 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes, but they're almost too big. So, I mean, they'll be perfect for buns, but you have to be super careful when we're putting our egg wash on here. So we're gonna remove the plastic. I've got the oven heating up to 400 degrees. Now, excuse me, to make an egg wash, you just use a whole egg and about a tablespoon of water, and you just beat that until it's well combined. So we're gonna go ahead and put this egg wash on our buns or rolls or whatever, however you wanna call them. Slide this over here so you guys can see this easier. All right, we're just gonna very carefully brush this on top here. Yeah, this one in the center is not gonna be a really good looking hamburger bun, but that's okay. It'll still taste delicious. So we're just gonna brush this on, like I said, very gingerly. I'm barely touching the roll to put the egg wash on there. You don't want to collapse it. Sometimes if you bang the pan down, it can collapse. So we're just going to sprinkle some sesame seeds on there. If you don't like sesame seeds, you can completely do away with this. You can use poppy seeds or even better, everything bagel seasoning. But it's honestly whatever you want. If you don't want any topping at all, just put the egg wash on there and it makes it nice and golden brown. Sorry, I just got done eating lunch a few minutes ago, so I've got some gunk in my throat. All right, so there's those. We're gonna do the same thing to the hamburger or to the hoagie rolls. And then what we'll do is we'll put these into a 400-degree oven and bake them for about 15 minutes. So between 10 and 15 minutes, it does not take long. Sorry. We just wanna bake them to where they're nice and golden brown and put them in. My suggestion is when you do make this, don't put them in a metal pan. It will make the bottoms too hard. In these glass pans, it makes the bottoms of the rolls really nice and soft. So again, 10 to 15 minutes in the oven at 400 degrees. All right, folks. Just took them out of the oven, so I'm gonna be really careful not to burn myself on this pan, but look at those. Don't those look delicious? They are perfect. Look at these. Beautiful hamburger buns. I love these things. These are so good and they're so easy. Let me go ahead and take them out of the pan. That way you can see. Let me see if I can look it up. Lift up the bottom. Oh yeah. Look. Not too dark. Nice and golden brown. Let's just take these straight out of here. Oh yeah. And these are just going to slide right out like that. Look at that. Oops. As the cooling rack goes with it. All right. Let's get those up there. Oh, goodness. There we go. All right. It took 13 to 14 minutes to bake those. Was not that big of a deal. Short amount of time. If you're having brats or hamburgers tonight, you can get these done in no time flat. So that way you don't have to run to the store and buy those prepackaged buns and at the store. Oof, they're not that great. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. It truly helps our family out. Share it with your friends. That's it, folks. I'm Christa with the Big Family Homestead, and you have a blessed and amazing day.